What's happening, people? Welcome back to Out of the Loop. Thank you very much for joining me. So today I'm going to go over 5 ways that you can improve in music production quickly. So these are things that I have done over the years and have really helped me to excel in a short amount of time. If you don't know who I am and you're new to this channel, this is the first video that you've watched. My name is Matt, aka La. I've been producing for around 6 years, give or take. 3 years making melodic house, organic house, and melodic techno. In that time, I've had some signings to labels such as Monster Cat Silk, Colorize, Songspire, Zero Free, and more recently in Juna Deep, which has been a huge goal of mine. And I also work full-time for Production Music Live, so I live completely off music. I'm not telling you these things to brag, it's just to let you know that the things I'm about to tell you are tried and tested, and they're things that I do and they have helped me to improve over the years. So this list isn't in any particular order, it's just whatever came to my mind first. So the first one is make different music and to make a lot of it. What I mean by that is, so say if you are making a certain type of genre, there's a certain sound that you're going after based on probably your favorite artist within that genre, which is all good, and it's definitely good to strive towards that point, but you're not really going to stand out in the long run in terms of like labels listening to your music. You're just going to sound similar to that artist, but probably a worse version of that artist, let's be honest. So what's really important is to just try to push yourself when you are making your music. So when you first sit down to make a project, try to do something that's just different. Try to do something that is out of your comfort zone. So say, for example, if you start your track with a chord progression, and then you follow up with a bass, and then you follow up with an arpeggiator, and then some drums and something like that, and all those things are very typical and very comfortable within the genre. Maybe instead of starting with a chord progression, you start with some sound design things, some crazy lead that you have just made up from just messing around in whatever your favorite synth is. Maybe you start with your drums, and instead of doing your typical 4/4 pattern, you mix it up a little bit. You do maybe a broken beat, or not even that broken, but just trying to mix it around a little bit. Maybe do a different style of perks and things like that. Add in a little bit of influence from Afro House or from somewhere else, using bongos, using things like that you wouldn't normally use. And at first it will feel very uncomfortable, and you won't like it at first, but then if you push yourself and you keep going down that road, and you keep going, okay, I'm going to try and finish this track, even though it's not my normal thing, you can get some really good results, and you can find things that you might not normally do, and you'll kind of fix problems that you wouldn't have normally had problems for in the past when you made your safe genre music. So yeah, and the other thing is just to make a lot of it. This is one of the most important things that you'll hear, and a lot of people will say this to you, is just make a lot of music. Can't be stressed enough. I've made probably thousands and thousands of projects, not thousands and thousands, but a lot of projects. And yeah, the quickest way to learn is just from doing all these different types of projects and just figuring out all these new problems and overcoming them. Cool. So let's go over number 2. So number 2 is to remake music. So you will get told a lot to use a reference track, which is very helpful, but I'll be honest, I don't use reference tracks that often. I did a bit more when I was learning earlier on, but they are quite disheartening to listen to when you're playing your music alongside it, probably because the people that you're referencing are like world-class producers with a professional mixdown on their track and a professional master on their track. It's just really not like an even playing field. But one thing that you can do is try to remake that track exactly. So rather than kind of like comparing your music with a world-class artist, just try to remake what that artist has done in terms of everything. So in terms of arrangement, drum style, sound design, just like the general composition. If you do that, you can learn so much. And if this list was in any particular order, I would say this is number 1. This is something that I do, and it helps me so much, and it's actually what I do for my job. I try to replicate sounds made from professional artists for the sound design channel for PML, and I do that 5 days a week. It's really hard to do because I'm trying to replicate, a very world-class sound, but I learn a lot from doing it, just from figuring out what it is that made that sound work and just seeing what I can do to get it to be at that point. And for you as a new producer or even an intermediate producer, I highly recommend that you do that as well. Cool, let's move on to number 3. So number 3 is to seek credible feedback. So when we first produce, maybe a lot of you don't do this anymore, but you might send your music to your friends and family after you've like finished a project that you're really proud of. And as much as we want their praise, or we want their approval or something like that, or we just want them to hear our music, they don't really know what they're talking about unless you know a producer. But they probably don't know what they're talking about, and they're probably just going to say to you, "Yo, this is really nice," or "This is really good." And it's not really helpful feedback, just because they don't want to hurt your feelings. And so what you need to do is just find some kind of groups that are going to be helpful and going to support your music. So there's Facebook groups that you can join, depending on your genre. You can just search it up on Facebook. There's Discord groups. I have a Discord, which I'll link somewhere down here or whatever, and you guys can join that. There's a feedback group in there. There's loads of YouTubers that have these Discord groups with feedback channels in there, and it's just a group of people that all want to receive feedback, and so they have to give feedback to receive it. So you can rely on getting some good feedback from other producers. And then also, like for me, I do a live stream where I'll give feedback to you live on YouTube, and I've got signings to good labels, so it means that the feedback that I'm going to be giving you is going to be slightly knowledgeable, possibly. So yeah, it's good to get involved in those kind of things as well, and then that way you get a good, honest, credible opinion on your music. Cool, let's move on to number 4. So number 4 is to learn what you don't know. So this seems pretty obvious, but you need to get quite aggressive with this and honest with this. So if you're sitting in front of your project, you're just starting it, and then you end up getting stuck in this loop at this same point all the time. Like say if it's like coming up to making a lead, and you're like, oh, okay, I got to this lead, and then I don't know what to do. My sound design sucks, or my melodies suck, whatever. Then just stop and be like, okay, how do I make a lead? YouTube it. Look on YouTube, whatever, or okay, I don't know any music theory, do a little course on music theory. There's loads out there. Read a book on music theory. Maybe if you come to the mix down, you're like, oh, it just sounds really bad. Get a book on mixing. This is what I've done. I've been reading this recently. Like, even though my mixing's at a good point, there's always more that you can learn. Music production is so big and huge, and there's so many things that you can learn. Like music theory, for example, I don't know huge amounts about it. I just know enough to kind of get by. And for me, I'm now trying to aggressively learn those things. If I ever get stuck as well, if I'm in a project and I'm like, oh yeah, why does this melody not work? I'll just try to look it up and learn as much as I can about, okay, this kind of scale. What notes work in these scale? What chords work in this scale? Just really try to get aggressive with the things that you don't know, and very finical with them. Don't just move on or use a preset or something like that. Try to figure out what it is that makes that thing work or not work. Cool. So let's go to the last one, and this is also an obvious one, but it's very important. And yeah, number 5 is to not give up. I don't mean that just like in your music production journey, even though that's incredibly important to not give up as you're moving through your career. What I mean is while you're in your project. So say if you are working on something, you're working on just like the first step, which is the chord progression or something like that, and then you just feel like the chord progression is not working or whatever, and then what you do is you just delete it and then you make something else. And what you need to do is just push through that wall. You need to go, okay, why is this not working? I need to figure it out, and I need to fix it and get it to sound good. And you'll really reward yourself for doing that. Obviously, if you're stuck in a loop for 8 hours or something like that, there is a point where you need to just pause and have a break, because you're just kind of destroying your not destroying your ears, but your perception, and it's quite hard to think clearly at that point. So it's just good to have a break, come back, and then maybe go, okay, can I push through this? Can I fix that issue, or do I need to delete it? And if you do need to delete it because it's so bad, then fair enough. But try to avoid deleting or making a new project, just starting a new project all the time. Just try and push through that wall of uncomfortability. Is that a word? Uncomfortability, whatever. But push through it, and you'll thank yourself in the end. All right, guys. So they are my 5 tips. I hope they help you. If they did help you, let me know in the comments. If you have any other tips for other people, also put that in the comments and people can see. And also like the video. It helps to share the video to other people, and subscribe if you haven't yet as well. Cool. Thank you very much, guys. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.